And joining us right now on the Raw Orthopedics guest line from PhillyVoice.com, Mr. Evan Macy joins us. Evan, I from what we had just talked about before I hit record, you must be on fumes right now.
It's obnoxious. I honestly, in my wildest dreams, didn't think that the Phillies would make this run. It's almost like my bluff being called because I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna really make a plan for Philly Voice. I hate to give the inside baseball, but honestly, I was so unprepared for the playoff run that happened that I was just kind of spontaneously trying to cover this team with duct tape and baling wire. And we're going to do a much more comprehensive team job here as they play in the World Series. But this has been just nuts. I did not expect any of this at all.
Yeah, I'm sure. Look, when was the moment that you were you thought you had to take this team seriously? Because I mean, in all honesty, I expected them to make the playoffs when the season started. When Joe Girardi was the manager, I did not expect them to make the playoffs shortly after. And then Rob Thomson helps turn this thing around. When did you start to really take notice to this team and realize, oh, wow, we got to do some planning over here at Philly Voice?
It's hard to not use emotion. Like, you want to use logic, but this is such an emotional run. So the Rhys Hoskins home run against the Braves was really a moment. Like, these runs have these moments. Like, I remember I was in college for the 2008 Phillies, and there's so many distinct memories. Obviously, you know, the home run Victorino in Los Angeles comes to mind. Like, there's just all of these moments. The crazy ninth inning against the Cardinals, and then there's the Rhys Hoskins home run against the Braves. And then, honestly, can this beat the Astros? Can they compete with the Astros? I mean, yeah, I guess. First I was like, okay, I believe they can make the playoffs. Then I was like, okay, I believe that they can advance around in the playoffs. Then, okay, I believe they can make the World Series. And after what Bryce Harper did, and Zach Wheeler and everybody in the clinching game, is this crazy? Can they beat the Astros? They won 87 games. This isn't supposed to be happening, but it's hard for me not to believe because every time I've doubted them, they've done something ridiculous. Like, they're not doing it in mundane fashion. They're doing it in everyone's going to be talking about this for the rest of their lives fashion. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, everyone says there's a team that gets hot at the right time. And I don't think that applies to the Phillies because the right time is September. Oh, they got hot at the right time when everybody else was falling apart. But they got hot in July, August, and then September, they kind of hit a wall. I will say this, though. They did gel at the right time. And the right time when they held on to keep their playoff spot over the Brewers, the right time was that ninth inning, that eighth inning, that ninth inning against the Cardinals. That's when I think this team just started believing that they could do anything.
It's so funny because I recall so many stories and takes back in the spring just about how this team was put together with just a bunch of I'm paraphrasing, but just like fat sluggers who can't play defense. Like, that was basically what this team was. And they didn't have a lot of pitching depth and their bullpen was unreliable. And it's amazing that it's actually paying off. They have so many different options on offense that can carry the team that to shut them all down is almost impossible for an opposing pitcher. The Phillies are doing this against guys like Yu Darvish. They're doing it against, the Braves had some really good, all of the starters that they faced, the top 2 or 3 starters for all the teams they've played in these playoffs have shut down stuff. And for somebody stepped up. And it's really tough. You have Kyle Schwarber, who's just like an annoying leadoff hitter who hits home runs. And Real Muto's the best catcher in baseball, and Harper's the MVP, and you have Castellanos who can do it, and then Rhys Hoskins makes no sense. He's never going to buy another beer for himself in Philadelphia. It's a murderer's row, and then they have the young guys too. Boehm has been cold lately, but he can knock a couple of base hits in a game and become a threat. And Stott has a couple of clutch hits, and you have guys who can play defense, in center and Brandon Marsh. I know I'm just reading the players basically, but they're good. It's a good roster. It's working. It's really, I'm curious to see how this, especially if they win, how this influences the way that Major League Baseball front offices build teams, because this is a different way to build a team and it's working.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing that I keep on reminding myself, I mean, like some people, myself included, will do the comparison, especially if they win, versus like the 2017 Philadelphia Eagles winning the Super Bowl. It's like that was a team that was decimated with injury, yet they rose above and they won. This is a team that you have your MVP, you have this over the luxury tax spending going on here. So in a lot of ways, they underachieved for a long time up until the playoffs started. So it's like you talk about building a team. Oh, they spent money, and they might spend even more money this next offseason, especially if they win or they feel like they were just right there with the Astros. But really, it seems like this is a team, as you mentioned. You mentioned the guys on the roster, but the depth offensively with this lineup is really what I think has carried them to this point.
Absolutely. They depth where it matters. I guess something I should mention is I cannot believe the pitching after Nola and Wheeler. That is something that I went to they had both of their bullpen games from home. I was at both of those games and I was fully prepared, for the series to shift the other way. And somehow they won both of these games. I can't believe it. They didn't really have a starter. They had Bailey Falter started and didn't even get through the first inning when they allowed runs in game 4. And like they bounced back. They their bullpen didn't really give up any more. I can't believe the way that every single piece is working. I mean, we're not here. The Phillies are not here if not for all of this stuff. Like it might look dominating in the stat line, but if there's one dude who's not doing what he's doing, not here. They really walked a tightrope, and everybody's contributed, and it's pretty impressive to see.
No question. Now, when it comes to Rob Thomson as the Phillies skipper, we could all talk about the chemistry and his overall effect on the clubhouse and all that, but this guy was unloading pitchers, especially the Ranger Suarez start in game 3 of this series. And I'm thinking, tomorrow exists. And for whatever reason, he just said to hell with it and just kept throwing guys out there. What have you made of him pushing the buttons along the way throughout this postseason?
Some of the moves have been questionable, but they've worked. I mean, it's impressive. The way that he lined up the pitchers for the final game was odd, and he had Robertson. Robertson got 2 men on, and then he went to Eflin and got a gut feeling. He knows these players. He's making moves based on the relationships that he has with guys and based on like building confidence with guys through one-on-one conversations. I mean, he's like this quiet, confident, stoic baseball genius, I guess. And he's not really going with like, okay, then he has the 9th, and Robertson has the 8th, and Eflin has the 7th, and Alvarez has the 6th. There's no roadmap. He's just kind of, all right, this is the situation. This is who's due up, and this is what I saw from a dude in his warm-up session. I'm going to pull ever on him, and it's really interesting. He's kind of fly by the seat of his pants, and it's tough. Like as a sports writer, in addition to like expect. You expect the regular closer to finish the game. He's had so many different guys get a look in the 9th inning. There's no real reliability on how he's gonna make decisions, but they're working. He's obviously going on gut. He obviously knows something we don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's weird. I agree with you. You talk about the bullpen, and I always was raised in the baseball world of pitchers are creatures of habit. They need to know when to start getting ready and when to stretch and the whatever it might be. And he's completely thrown out the window. Now, Rhys Hoskins is an interesting case here, and you mentioned the depth here, but Rhys Hoskins hits have all come in like clutch situations. I mean, there's one exception, game 2, he hit a home run where game was still out of hand, but it's like you need a 2-run home run. Rhys Hoskins steps up there, whether they're walking Schwarber or Schwarber gets on base, he steps up and he hits a home run. It seems like he has really come into his own in the postseason for what the Phillies groomed him to be throughout his minor league and now major league career.
I guess so. I wrote about roster construction when the series started because a lot of people were comparing the Phillies and the Padres. And it makes a lot of sense. They're both kind of big market teams, but they're not the premier teams. And they've both spent a lot of money, and they've both made splashy moves for stars. But when I dove into it further, the thing that I found to be the most interesting was that they don't have anybody from their farm system on this team. They have 1 out of 25 is a guy from the farm system. They have 14 of the Padres players were acquired via a trade. Wow. Which isn't to knock their farm system. Obviously, they use those players to build their team in trades. But you always think of the Phillies as a team that are not drafting well. All of the busted first-round picks. But when you look at it, the homegrown talent that has contributed to the Phillies is actually impressive. You have Hoskins, like you said, who's just a clutch animal. We've not seen anything like this in a really long time. But you have Alec Bohm and Bryson Stott, and you have Sir Anthony Dominguez, and you have Aaron Jones. it's been a long one. You have Aaron Nola,
yeah,
and so on and so on. And there's these players who've come up through Philadelphia, and Hoskins one of them. And you have to wonder, there's a difference between being a mercenary and being a lifer with a team. And I'm really wondering if what Hoskins has gone through. I mean, he was enemy number one or whatever. There's a lot of enemies here. He was on the NS for a while with Philly fans, and for whatever reason, he's just able to. I don't know. He's able to find that clutch gene and come through. And I think the fact that the Phillies have some of these guys who've been here a really long time makes us even more special. I mean, at least in the clubhouse, it's really special for these guys. And I think it's special because we've seen Hoskins' troubles and tribulations, and he's kind of, he's one of our guys. Maybe he's back next season because of this. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it certainly seems like it'd be difficult to move after 5 home runs to this point in the postseason. Yeah. We're looking at this Houston Astros lineup, looking at this rotation. Obviously, the experience jumps out to anybody. 4 World Series, 6 years is pretty impressive. So when you look at this roster of the Astros from afar, what jumps out to you immediately?
I think the experience that you said is really huge. I don't know. I don't know how much that really plays a factor as far as like once you're playing a game, you're playing a game. There's a lot of off-field stuff that the Phillies are going to have to do that they're not used to. It'll be interesting. They have this long break for the series, and I'm curious if that's going to be good or bad, just because they've had so much momentum playing like every day, basically. The Astros are kind of having the downtime, and the Astros they're going to be able to be at home and be comfortable. And I don't know. On paper, it's got to be Astros. I'm sure the betting line is very skewed. I mean, they might be the biggest underdog in the World Series in a while, but if you just kind of eliminate looking at it on paper and you just kind of look at what they've done the last 2 weeks, it's hard to discount the Phillies because they have the starting pitching and they have the hitting and their bullpen has been good. And those are really the 3 aspects. The Phillies have scored in lots of ways. They've, gotten on base and created runs. You saw the in the Cardinals series, they were able to get hit by pitches and walks to have a rally. And then, of course, all of the clutch home runs. So they can do it in a lot of different ways. And I don't know if I would pick the Phillies to beat the Astros, but I don't think it's going to be a sweep. I think they have a chance. I think, they're going to be – I thought that this would have been true earlier. I think it's going to come down to those non-Nola Wheeler games. It's going to come down to those bullpen games. I think, when they have their top 2 starters up against, the top 2 starters like Verlander over with the Astros, I think those are going to be pitchers duels that the Phillies can probably win with a clutch hit or 2. But can they shut down the Astros, throwing everything but the kitchen sink at them with a bullpen game? Mm-hmm. If they can do that, I'll be a true believer. That's still something that I'm hesitant to have confidence can work. 3-4 times now?
Yeah, there you go. Absolutely. When it comes to this not easy question, but I think very simple question, and it's along the lines of what the hell are they thinking? What the hell is Major League Baseball thinking not having the World Series start for essentially a week? There's a week. It's like you have a bye week. The NFL obviously has Monday Night Football. They have Thursday Night Football, of course. They got Sunday Night Football. And then Sunday you're competing with baseball all day anyway. Why would Major League Baseball decide, I guess, to have this long layoff between the last game of the league championship series, and the World Series? Why have that long layoff?
So Tuesday is supposed to be game 7 of the NLCS. It was not necessary. So the ALCS was a game behind. So in their defense, it was supposed to be the series finished Tuesday and Wednesday. You got media day Thursday, and then you got game 1 Friday, Saturday. Schedule's been set. I've been obsessively checking start times and schedules because I'm going on flights and stuff, and it's been nuts. So this has been the schedule. And they play Friday, Saturday, and then there's off Sunday in Houston, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in Philly, and then off for when the Eagles the Texans because that's just bizarre. And then they play Saturday. So it's designed to maximize viewers and not go up against the NFL. There's not going to be a World Series game on Sunday, and then the following week there's not going to be a World Series game on Thursday. So that's why they did it. It would have been cool if it just kind of the World Series started the day after things were wrapped up with both teams. That would have been nice. But hey, we get to talk about it and write about it for like a week and build anticipation and get some page views and some views. And so, I mean, it's fine with me.
Yeah, go get them clicks. Yeah, go
Exactly.
get them clicks. By the way, thank you. You were at the Sixers game. Now, the time we air this 2 nights ago, you and your lovely wife, you brought them luck. They got their first win of the season. So hopefully the Phillies take care of business against the Houston Astros quickly. This way you and the missus can get the more Sixers games and bring them more wins. How about that?
If the Sixers want to give me and my wife season tickets so that they keep winning, we definitely can do that. I will say she's from Houston. I don't want to start a whole thing. She's from Houston. She had her Astros shirt underneath her Iverson shirt. And she had a couple of beers and was starting to take the Iverson shirt off. And I was basically holding it on with both hands that she can get me killed on the way out. But if no more Sixers games, I'm going to make her leave the Astros shirt at home.
Gotcha. That's a healthy marriage right there. That's a healthy marriage. Yeah. Evan Macy. Oh, so all right. Last thing. Now it doesn't start till Friday. What are you expecting? You mentioned the close series here, not a sweep. What are you expecting if you wrote the script as a prediction for this series?
I think they can spend 2 games to come back to Philadelphia. If they don't, it's going to be a completely different vibe. I think if they somehow get one of these 2 games against the Astros pitchers and then take the home field advantage as they had all the other series, I think the Phillies can win it. I really think the first 2 games are going to determine it. Being down 2 games to the Astros is too big a hole. I think they can get to 1-1. I really do. And then when they come to Philly, they haven't lost yet. So who knows what happens? So I'm gonna politely decline to make a prediction, but I don't think it's a sweep, and I think the Phillies have a chance.
There we go. That's all I need right now, at least. That's all I need right now. Evan Macy, Philly Voice, phillyvoice.com. Much appreciated. I'm sure we'll talk to you hopefully as the series goes on and in the offseason as well. Evan, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Evan Macy joining us on the Rothman Orthopedics guest line.